Hey folks, Ryan Davis here. We're in the studio today with Double Fine's Brian Min, audio director. And there in the back, Patrick Hackett, you are project lead on a little game we're going to take a look at today.
Yep.
Called Dropchord.
Called Dropchord, yep. So Dropchord is for the Leap motion device.
Okay.
And just because this thing isn't out until July, I'm going to show you very quickly here what it can do.
So we're going to be playing this on the PC, and this does use this specific piece of hardware you're going to need to play Dropchord.
For sure, yeah.
So the device itself is just a little widget you've got there sitting on the desktop. You can see it right there in the shot, and you're going to show off kind of the fidelity that this this motion controller provides you.
Right. So this thing, so this is for PC and Mac, and it's not a game device.
Okay.
Per se, you know, they want it for all apps on the computer. But you can see that it's a motion control device, but it has super awesome fidelity on it.
And this is even when we are shining huge studio lights at you.
Blazing
unlike
lights
certain
right
other
on the
motion
cameras.
controllers.
Oh, snap.
That's the kind of color commentary I'm expecting from you today,
Oh, really?
Brian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's lots of good snaps.
Okay.
Whenever you see an opportunity for it.
Okay.
So we're getting like all 5 fingers on both hands with this thing.
Yeah, I think the number of fingers is, I'm going to go and say infinite, but like
But
in practice,
you have 10.
You can't, right. Like, I haven't found anybody with more than 10, and so we haven't been able to test that.
Would that be like discriminatory if for like a QA person you said like must have 11 fingers?
Oh.
Like would that be bad? Probably.
We're going to leave it up to them.
Like 11 fingers not required, but a plus? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right answer is there. All right, well let's get into game. Let's actually look at Dropchord.
Okay.
Patrick, what's the pitch on this? How did you convince Double Fine to make this game?
To make this music game, yeah. So this game started as we were making prototypes. We have a 3-game deal with one of our angel investors.
Okay.
And the first game was Middle Manager of Justice that
Great.
we did. And so Drew Skillman and I, who I'm sure you've met before,
I'm
you've met
familiar with Drew
plenty of times, we're putting together prototypes for that mobile game. And this was one of the ones we came up with, but right about that time that we came up with this idea, we started talking to the Leap guys about their device, and we ported it to Leap, and they loved it, and we were having a great time with this technology, and so we went forward with the Leap one. And so this game is, you can see right here, this is kind of our like calibration point for the game. It's showing you, you know, we're going to use 2 fingers on 2 hands, and about this is the place that you're going to be holding your fingers. And once this beam shows up, this is the basis of the game.
Okay.
Is that you're controlling this beam or a cord on this game ring, and you'll be striking these notes, is what we call them.
Okay.
So I'm just going to jump right into the game. And so what happens is these different notes come up in patterns, and then we're going to, you know, strike them with the beam and kind of move on like this. And in about 2 seconds, you'll see we want to avoid that guy, right?
Got it.
So now I'm sure you can see where this is going.
I'm getting the idea, and Brian, before we started recording, you had mentioned that this was a sound game, but not a rhythm game.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's coming through pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I think so. And again, I think those are kind of done before. And I mean, Patrick, you could talk more about. That's really his vision. Like Patrick had a very clear vision about that. You know, it was going to be a music-driven puzzle, like a puzzle game. So it was music-driven, but it's not a rhythm game. You know, where you're not tapping it. So we just wanted to make sure that the music was super catchy and that it almost felt like the drop is coming here. And then, you know, that's sort of the game where you want to hear the catchy chorus.
Yeah.
But if you want to get there, you got to kind of play these increasingly more difficult kind of puzzles and gestures that you got to perform. And so it's sort of like ear crack, you know?
I'd say from
Ear
like
crack.
a gameplay perspective, 95%. Nicely done.
Oh, yeah.
From a gameplay perspective, like I feel like it's reminding me of like 100 for.
Oh, sure.
For I think that's for a bunch of
Yeah,
platforms
yeah.
now, but like iOS stuff.
Yep.
Primarily, and then from like a visual and audio standpoint, it's reminding me of the old Cthulhu visualizer for PC.
Yeah.
From, let's say, 96, 97.
That's amazing. One of the things that we looked at while trying to make up the visuals was, do you remember Milk Drop?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Milk Drop
was the
for
standard.
thing was amazing.
Yeah,
and so,
you couldn't believe what Milk Drop could do.
Yeah. And so we just had that running in the office for a day, like trying to steal ideas from it. So in this section, this brings up, this new mechanic that we wanted to show off. Like the leap can track so many fingers, and so we wanted to show off this part where you're using all your fingers and, put 2 in that circle and 3 in this. But this is also, I'm shifting my hands forward and back.
Okay,
and it's
yeah.
actually shifting the world around. And at the same time, it's pushing the pan of the music according to which way I tilt the world.
Oh, okay. So folks are getting a little stereo delight.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little bit of, like the fact that you can just manipulate the music based on your gesture, just little things to kind of make things more interesting. But again, it's not like heavily like interactive music or anything per se, but it's just so that you can play with it.
Yeah, it really was, the idea for like the progression of the levels in the game was, if you're listening to electronic music,
yeah,
you'll notice that like every song kind of introduces some elements, builds on it a little bit, and then kind of builds up to this spike, and then drops down to this chorus where everybody dances, and then rinse and repeat, right? But if you match that to like a game level, game levels are generally the same thing. They introduce a new mechanic,
yeah,
and then they challenge you on it, and then it kind of spikes up, and then there's like a payoff at the end of the level, and then repeat. And so matching those together was just kind of the basis for how this level structure would be.
And we spent a lot of time on the music too, the way it was constructed. And even though we had a very tight schedule and sort of a tight budget, Patrick was just super supportive in allowing me to really explore, like how can the music be really driving and being a reward in itself. And so a lot of the structure and the way it was constructed, like we were very careful about the tempo, the key change, and the way it went and how it progressed, and the kind of key changes you hear, just to make you feel like the music is really interesting and it never goes stale.
Yeah.
So that typical, again, sort of electro music tends to have that kind of thing to it. So
sure,
we set that bar, but then we also kind of push a lot of it and just make it constantly interesting, so that there's a lot of ear candy as well as eye candy.
And from a visual perspective here, like how far do you go before it just becomes overwhelming? Did you guys like push it to a limit with layers and effects that were going on?
We did.
Okay, that's too far. We need to pull it back.
Yes. We had this idea that we wouldn't make the game mechanically difficult, just visually difficult. But in practice, that started to kind of make people sick and whatever. So we held back. I'm just going to exit out to show off this guy and then show the other mode that we put in the game. So that mode, it progresses through, a number of levels.
Yeah.
You experience these tracks as it builds mechanics, and it's kind of like the story level structure, the standard level structure. But we also put in kind of, we refer to it as the full mix mode, and it's an endless mode, like a time attack type thing.
Yeah.
But in this mode, we're playing the music tracks in their kind of original form. This is kind of like a tribute to our audio guys.
The working versions of these songs.
Yeah.
Because we had to chop them up quite a bit to fit the structure of the gameplay.
Got it.
And they kind of sort of like shift around based on what's going on in the game. While this one is sort of like trying to be true to what the music was. And also we had a really good time meeting up with our visual effects Panya person, and we had the tracks in place, and the visual effects guys would come in and start matching or doing design work based on the music. So there was a lot of or a lot of the sound design that got done was also mirrored visually. So it was really fun to kind of be driving the aesthetic of the game with sound. Like a lot of audio guys sort of that's sort of like what they want to do, or sort of the holy grail or whatnot. And it was really fun to be at a place like Double Fine or working with Patrick that they're really supportive of an idea. Even just the music genre, if you think about it, this music itself was fairly controversial in a sense where Double Fine doesn't make this kind of dance music.
I was gonna say, like, just the whole concept of the game, the visual style of the musical style of it, nothing beyond sort of just a general kind of indie spirit, really creates a connection with the Double Fine that people know from the games that that have been released.
Yeah, and I have to, again, I give Tim a lot of credit for just kind of allowing us to do things that is kind of insane. I mean, even the pitch meeting, there were, some people that are like, well, how is this Double Fine-y? And we're like, it's Double Fine-y because they're not going to expect it. We're just doing things based on Patrick's vision, and people are passionate about it, and we thought we can execute on it really well, and I'm really proud of it. Just because it's not what you think a Double Fine soundtrack would be, or what a Double Fine game would look like per se.
But I also think that it's a kind of game, musically driven like this, with this kind of abstract visuals. It's just not being made.
Yeah.
It is, to me, this does kind of represent a very specific genre of game that had a certain heyday in, let's say the early aughts.
Sure,
Of puzzle games, music games, rhythm games, all kind of muddling up together and producing.
I think we just can't also forget the Leap motion control, and also I think that kind of was a springboard for creativity, because it's, Leap motion, we understand we had Kinect or we had the Wii U,
sure,
and other things, but like this is sort of new for the desktop. So I thought, I think this is a good way to maybe experiment with these kinds of things because it is a new platform. Maybe this is a typical sell on a brand like an old existing platform, but maybe for the Leap or for that platform as a new device, maybe it's an interesting way to pitch it or something.
Well, I already seeing just what the fidelity that you're getting out of this controller, and it's showing the 5-fingered.
It's really incredible.
Just its ability to sense that stuff is impressive.
Yeah, it's hard to showcase some of the kind of the sort of the joy that people get when they put up their fingers and you hear the sound interact with your hands and the music responding to it and the responsiveness of it.
So before you guys had come in, I had heard of Dropchord. I had not seen the game, and I had not seen the Leap device itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure, Patrick, when you first produced it, that I said, oh, it's like a theremin. As far as just kind of, distance from the thing determining, in this case, your action in the game. Have you considered, music creation as part of the tool set here?
I think so. I think there may be some, I'm not sure if I'm privy to say it, but I'm sure there's other developers that could possibly be working on virtual instruments. I've heard things about you think about a theremin, I'm sure maybe with Leap Motion they could devise a virtual instrument that way. Sure, I think so. It was beyond the scope of this particular game, but I can certainly see that happening. You know, like you talk, imagination sort of running wild.
For sure.
So that's really funny. On their developer site, there's tons of developers that are showing off like their projects and whatever, and apps they're making with it.
Yeah.
And the first time I logged on there, I think there were 3 theremins.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So,
I think there was like a harp too. I don't know.
Yeah,
there was like a digital harp or something.
Well, because I've seen digital theremins in other formats where it is a kind of a single-purpose device.
Sure. Yeah.
But I guess that creating that functionality here is fairly obvious.
Yeah. And this also is a delicate balance too, because like we had, Patrick was very keen on making sure that this was like a puzzle game, and so I think it's just like developers in general, you have a lot of feature creep problems where, well, what if we could do this? What if we could do that? We just have to be kind of focused about what we were trying to do, and believe that that'll work because of the kind of the short development cycle we had. And
Patrick, when I'm seeing these little bars showing up these little concentric bars showing up along the edges of the ring here, and then you're doing this sweeping motion, can you explain that real quick?
Yeah, that was a mechanic that got snuck out here. But later in the game, you unlock the ability to spin the beam. So with like a swipe motion with your finger, you're actually throwing the beam around, and so you can spin it and let your hands off of it. And the purpose of that is to activate like these, we call them sync pads.
Okay.
And so it's just a new type of note that you're activating. And apparently I can't play and talk at the same time.
No, most people cannot.
No, that level is sickly hard. That was fun. Yeah.
A good lesson learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, cool stuff, guys. You have anything else here you wanna show off, or shall we leave the rest to folks' imagination for now?
Yeah, we'll leave it to the imagination.
Fantastic. Will you guys have a release date for Dropchord?
Yeah, it will be a launch title for the Leap, and the Leap is out July 22nd.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So bundled with, or folks will be able to get this through?
Yeah, so Leap, when you plug it in, it will have its own app store that pops up.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we'll be on there. It's like, iTunes or whatever.
Excellent.
It's called Airspace.
Seems like a system seller. So Dropchord available July 6th?
22nd.
July 22nd. I don't know why I thought 6th. July 22nd for Leap. Patrick, Brian, thank you guys so much for
Thanks
coming
a
by.
lot.
Thanks for having us. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And that's it.